10 things I wasn't allowed to do growing up in a cult. That's right, I grew up Jehovah's Witness, and I basically was in it from the time I was 18 months old until I was 15. So my mom married my stepdad when I was 18 months old. She was Southern Baptist, but she converted when she married him, and so I converted as well as an 18-month-old baby. Number one, most people, if you know anything about Jehovah's Witnesses, you know they do not celebrate holidays or birthdays. That's right, no holidays, no birthdays, no Christmas, no like New Year's Eve, no Mother's Day, no Father's Day. We did celebrate wedding anniversaries, but that was it. Also, you could not accept any gifts. So if your friends brought you a gift to school for your birthday, like, no, you had to tell them, sorry, I can't take that. Thank you so much. Number two, I was not allowed to say the Pledge of Allegiance as a Jehovah's Witness, like that or salute the flag. So whenever the pledge happened in the morning, I was supposed to sit in my seat as I was instructed by my mother. You sit there, you do not stand up, and you do not like pledge at all. You don't salute the flag, nothing. Like, you just sit there. Number three, you could not have any aspirations to be like a police officer or serve in the military, which is kind of ironic because the first thing I did when I left and grew up and got a big girl job was join the Air Force and serve 11 years. So take that, because it was an awesome experience. Number four, not allowed to vote. No political stance whatsoever. You cannot endorse a political candidate at any level. You cannot vote. Like, they are strictly like, don't get involved in the government at all, because they believe that's like a worldly mentality. Number five, I couldn't attend any other churches like outside of the Kingdom Hall. If we were like visiting a different state, my mom would go to the local Kingdom Hall. I'm sure you see them everywhere. My grandma was still a Baptist, and she would love for us to go to church with her. She'd be like, hey, can I like take them to my church on Sunday? My mom was very strict about it. Like, she truly believed, and Jehovah's Witnesses truly like believe, if you are inside of a church when the world ends, because they preach about Armageddon nonstop in the end of the world, that you will like literally be destroyed. So like, that was not allowed. Number six, I wasn't allowed to be a part of any extracurricular activities or any clubs in school. So thank God I was allowed to go to public school, because it was literally my only like break from this crazy way I grew up. And so I had friends and stuff like low key while I was there, but no staying after school, no academic clubs, no sports at all. Like, they truly believed that, and they taught that any like association with people outside of their religion is worldly, right? Like, so they wanted you to limit that as much as possible. Number seven, I was not allowed to be friends with people who were outside of my church, and the only exception to that were like, so if I had a friend in school, I had to convince them, hey, like, we're really close, I want you to come to my house so bad, I want to have a sleepover, I've never had one at this point, can you go to church with me? Like, can you like be a part of a Bible study with me? And then my mom will let you come. So I did have some cool friends that were like, yeah, cool, whatever, we'll just do a Bible study, that way we can hang out. But if you were not studying the Bible with me or my mom or whoever, you were not hanging out at our house. I did not have a lot of friends in high school, middle school. Like, I was the weird kid, because obviously I wasn't allowed to do anything, and people were probably like, what the heck is going on with this person? Number eight, I was not allowed to date casually. And I know like dating whatever, but I was a kid. I was trying to like figure out who I am. And there in the Jehovah's Witness, like, there is no dating casually. There is only dating with the intention of being married, and you let that intention be known to the organization, to the brothers, to the elders, and your parents. And like, these dates are supervised because they want absolutely no contact before marriage. Number nine, this is another hot topic, like a lot of people know about it. Jehovah's Witnesses do not take blood, and by that I mean they do not receive blood transfusions, even if their life depends on it. So even as a child, I was not allowed, like if I would have been needing a blood transfusion to save my life in the hospital, I'm like about to croak, my mom would have been like, no, absolutely not. She vehemently believed that you do not accept blood, like it's unclean. And then number 10, I was not allowed, like Jehovah's Witnesses in general are not allowed to watch any TV shows, read books, like any form of media that has a hint of magic, mysticism, psychic. Like, okay, I'm talking like, can't read Harry Potter because he's a wizard. You're a wizard, Harry. Yeah, so those are 10 of the things I was not allowed to do growing up as a Jehovah's Witness. So I'm Lindsay. I grew up in a cult from the time I was 18 months old when my mom married my stepdad. I grew up Jehovah's Witness, and I never knew anything in my life other than that because I was a baby from the time I was in it. So you might think, how does one escape, right? Like, how do you get away from that when your mom, your dad, your two sisters are in it? What do you do? So what I did was I got disfellowship. Yeah, so Jehovah's Witnesses call it disfellowshipping. It's kind of like being excommunicated, and what they do is they shun you. So my mom found out that I was basically, like, I had a boyfriend. We weren't allowed to casually date, and I was still really young and 15, just wanted to be a teenager, right? Like, I'd been with my boyfriend for over a year secretly. He went to my church, he went to my school, and I thought I was in love. I thought the world ended and began with this kid, right? I can't even say man, this kid. So I was rebelling a little bit as much as I could in the controlled environment, and I would, sneak him into my house at night or sneak out and go see him. Eventually, like, we ended up hooking up, and I was not a virgin anymore, and that is like, oh my gosh, so sinful, right? So my parents basically found out, my mom and my stepdad, and when my mom finds out, I'm away with a friend in the ministry, right? We had to go door to door like every Saturday and sometimes on Sundays, and we spent like 70 hours a month in the ministry. It's called pioneering. So I'm out knocking on doors, talking to people about the Bible, and then all of a sudden my friend that's with me gets a call from my mom. Hey, bring Lindsay home. And I'm kind of like, my mom's being weird. She's being kind of weird. So I get nervous, and my friend takes me home, and my mom, she opens the door. I walk in. It's my mom, my stepdad, and two elders from the congregation. So elders are like people in position of power. So this would be, in my case, two probably like 40s to 50s older men. So I sit down, right? I'm super weirded out, like, what happened? Did someone die? What's going on? And my mom's like, okay, they want to talk to you. And the one elder goes, yeah, so we know that you had, like, we know that you had premarital. And I'm like, I'm 15. Like, is this a conversation I should really be having with my mother or anyone that's not two random grown adult men? So it was weird, but I mean, it's all I knew. So I thought it was totally normal. I'm getting counseled at this point, right? I'm in trouble. They said, tell the truth. Like, the truth will set you free, like the Bible says. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I did. And they're like, what positions did you do these types of it? Where were you? How long? Like, just so many personal questions, and also like very inappropriate for how young I was at the time. So after that really traumatizing scenario is over, right? They leave. My mom goes into full, like, I've got to put a bubble around my child mode, right? She has sinned and I have to stop her from getting out because they believe if you leave that cult, your life is over, like you are dead. She pulls me out of school. So I was in public school in high school. She immediately pulls me out of school, which was my only escape from this home church all the time environment. Home cult, study the Bible, go to church. Go home. People were always watching me. I was always being watched. I'm only allowed to leave to go to the 3 times a week meetings at the church, and then I can't call my grandmother who's not in the religion, who's my person, and I can't call my biological father. My mom takes the handset off the phone, like she takes that part off the phone when she leaves the house. I have no way to communicate with anybody, no computer, nothing. I go to a meeting at church like on a Wednesday, and thankfully, like, there was a lady who was not as devout, and she's like, I'm worried about you. We need to get you out of that house because I can tell your mom's like losing it. So she kind of creates this plan to get her son, who was my best friend, to kind of like pick me up if I ran away from home and help me get to a safe place until my bio dad could get there. He was planning on coming on like 3 days later to like come get me because I had secretly gotten in touch with him. It's that night after church. I'm home. I'm like packing my little book bag. Okay, once my parents go to sleep, I'll get out of here. My mom notices the car parked across like in this little hidden driveway, and she's like, I know that car. And so she goes out and starts losing it. She's like, what are y'all doing here? You know, blah, blah, blah. I was like, forget it. I am never going to get out of this if I don't run. So I literally ran out the door. I ran out the door. It was like the coldest time in Charleston. I didn't have shoes on. I was like screw it, I gotta get out of here. I got to run for my life. I finally, like, after hours and hours, made it to a safe place with a friend, and I was able to stay there until my parents eventually found out where I was. And then during that time, the elders asked if they could meet up with me through a friend, and I'm like, okay. So I meet up with them, and the elders are like, oh, by the way, we've decided you're not sorry for your sin that you committed, so you are going to be disfellowshipped from this religion. And I'm like, how am I not sorry? Like, these are two completely different things. Like, I ran away because my parents were abusive. Like, my mom was physically, mentally, in every way she could, emotionally abusing me. So they were like, well, you ran away, you're not sorry, you're not being respectful to your parents. So they decided to disfellowship me. So yeah, I'm disfellowshipped. Basically, it means like I'm excommunicated. And the saddest part about that is that once I went to live with my dad, and you know, I had a free life. My bio dad wasn't in the Jehovah's Witness cult, and I was finally free and so much happier. But I lost every single person I knew up until that point in my life. I lost my mom, my two sisters that I grew up with, stepsisters, but still, and my stepdad. I still, to this day, 17 years later, do not have a relationship with those people that raised me, that were my family, right? And it's their choice to shun unless I am willing to come back and be a part of that religion, which I'm sorry, I am not joining your cult again. I will never, ever, ever be a part of that cult again. Ever, or put my kids in that situation, because if I don't do that, like, that's basically, my mom has sent me texts like, you need to come back. I'm sorry, I can't be a part of your life. She didn't come to my wedding. She never was there for when my children were born. I have 3 kids. It's been a tough struggle. It's been a long journey. I've done 15 years of therapy though, so I feel free. And you know, that's just a choice I had to make for my life, and I'm okay with where I'm at. So they say that revisiting the place where trauma happened to you can be healing. I know it can be hurtful, but it can also be healing if you're in a mental space where you're ready. So 17 years later, I haven't been to this spot in 17 years. I'm returning to the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses, where I attended as a child. And I'm just gonna sit on this bench right here in all my glory, with all my tattoos and all my life experience that I've lived since then, and really just revel in the fact that I am happy and healthy, and that this place no longer has any control over me, no hold on me, and no influence in my life, and that this is just a building. It's just a building that I never have to go into again. So yeah, thanks for joining me on this little trip, friends.